Hi, thanks for joining us for another edition of Chronic Conversations. Oh my God, I didn't screw up my intro, Rocky. So, before we get into it, just real quick, normally I almost always screw up the intro because I've either smoked or drank a little bit too much. Maybe I have it tonight. But anyway, I got it right, so high five on that one. Anyway, thanks for joining us for another edition of Chronic Conversations. Tonight I have a very special guest in studio with me. It's been a while since we've done an in studio one, so those are always a little different, a little more fun. Former pro wrestler, former pro wrestling manager, former valet. Oh wait, no,
The one time, but I swear
the
I'll
one
never do it
time,
again.
yeah, and I had to pay $25. Okay,
Anyway,
so scratch that one, and the guy behind. What do you say your position is? I would just say you run Farley Con.
promoter.
Promoter. Okay.
This is just wrestling term. I use it.
Wrestling. Yeah, I do too. I'm like, I'm sure there's some other term, but I'm just gonna go with what I know.
That's what I do.
So we're gonna talk about that. This is Rocky Spurlock. Say hello to Rocky Spurlock.
Hi.
So we met. God, it's been years ago.
Oh, probably 22, 23 years ago.
Yeah, and
Somewhere around there.
through that meeting and a meeting of somebody else is what eventually led to FarleyCon. For those who don't know what that is yet, do you want to kind of give them a little background and
Yeah,
how it started
absolutely.
and what it is and
Yeah.
stuff?
All right, so there was a guy we wrestled with, Jared Allen. He wrestles Jay Farley, and he got out of wrestling, was doing comic book conventions, setting up, selling toys, comics, and so forth. Got me and my son to go with him to help him out. One of them got us hooked. The one show we were done, we were hooked.
Right.
Farley and I started talking about doing a wrestling / comic book convention, doing it both at the same time, doing the comic book during the day and wrestling at night. And then we talked about it for a while and never got around to doing it.
Right.
And then Jared passed away, and we come up with we were looking for something to do to help his wife and kids that first year, and we came up with a FarleyCon to do the convention in his honor and his name.
Right. Hence FarleyCon.
Right. Jennifer, my wife, named it.
Jennifer, his wife, not Jennifer, my wife, the co-host, she's not here right now. But the other Jennifer is and filling in. So
A lot of us married Jennifer.
But a lot of us married Jennifer.
I think it was just because of chair shots in the head. We could remember that name.
Probably it's the easiest one to remember.
But anyway, so we did the first year. We did it at UEW in what Max Scruggs Road. Used to be on Mac. We used to be on Mac Smith Road.
Mac Smith,
years ago. We did the first one at Scruggs Road. Packed the place out. We started off very, very small in the comic book style. We had 10 vendors that first year. Very much so she has. But it was a lot of fun. Talked to Jared Rocker and asked her if she was attached to you when she saw
Legacy, it's a great thing that you do. We're going to get some more into like what happened in the past and what's coming up. Before we do that, you also deal through that with something called constipation. Yeah, actually, it was Renee got involved with Drew constipation through Drew Gang, Funko Pops. He's always with us. He wants to watch. Oh, yeah. Obviously. Love you, Drew. Yeah. He definitely is. Yeah. But he got small concentrations in the shake hands. The one thing is that like Uncle House. This past year we renamed our charity events. Memorial charity. Awesome. And we also have a group for women here. They help fundraise for children. Okay. And we'll watch you here and watch contracts. For example, this year, Harrison Ford signed also as a former pro promoter, you can figure out any way to work that one out. I see.
Yeah, I was that I'm going to, because I see that in the past, right? And we're off to the city commission. And they were doing a silent auction at the time. Now it's more interactive. It's more like a real life auction. We call it a not so silent auction. But I saw it go for $200. I thought, okay, I'm in up to $300.
Right.
I was quickly out of that auction.
Oh my God!
It got into a bid war where
That's
it was jumping $100 a bid, and when we got $1,200, I was shocked and done. And those guys are great too. They do a lot to help the kids. You know, and the foster patients. We're so glad to have those part of our Drew Game Memorial Drive. He worked a lot of hours on the foster patient side of that. Spent a lot of time. You know, those times he would work third shift and come in third shift, spend all day with us on Saturday, and then head out and do a show that night somewhere.
Yeah, more than likely 2 or 3 shows that night.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, we actually did break the foster patient single one-day record this year for donations.
Oh wow! Well, if people want to donate pops, do they get in touch with you? Is there somebody special or on Facebook? How would they?
Yeah, they can message on Facebook, and then we can arrange for them to drop it off, or they can just bring them to the show and drop them off at the table.
Rebecca, saying you broke the record this year, though.
Yeah, Rebecca and Ron is Julie's dad, and Julie and her husband. They have done a lot and really just taken it over and ran with that.
Awesome.
His legacy alive as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. He was one of those guys that, you know, had such a great legacy in both in and out of wrestling, just like Jay. And it is, I'm sure for you both, an honor, and it kind of keeps you connected to them as well, to be a part of these things. And if you want to be a part, you know, get on there and talk with one of them, get some of those donated. Do they do it all year? They take them, or just like a certain time of year? Do you have like a?
We don't have a drop-off place, but we will take them. You know, if they've got, say 10, 15 pops, they want to meet somewhere or drop them off. We'll accept. You know, if it's 1, 2 pops, I would kind of recommend save them and bring them to the show.
Saving them up, right?
But if it's a significant number and they clean up their collection,
right?
Get rid of some
of the old box that they just don't want anymore, or something.
Yeah, we'll definitely get with them or have a scheduled time for them to drop them off at different places.
Awesome.
You know, they could drop them off at my wife at her beauty shop at DNA Hair Structure on Port Overport as well.
Okay. Yeah, and mention that in her real quick. Go ahead and promote it.
Jennifer Spurlock, she's a hairdresser at DNA Hair Structure in Port Overport, makes blood assurance.
Yeah, and I've been
doing it for years.
18.
Never seen anything but great reviews, so definitely give that a thing. And real quick, give a shout out to the people at the Not Bad Paracord making. They make everything paracord. It's Taz Schaefer, do you know?
No, I don't know.
That's what he runs that company now. I think it's maybe him and his wife possibly, but they do a really good job of with their brand and things like that too. And they've made everything, I think, from look, Get Back, I know what that is, motorcycles or something. They called something with a monkey something. I'm like, I don't know if they didn't use it in wrestling or if we're dating not, and I was all confused of what it could be used for. But yeah, if you have any kind of paranoid needs, see me, I can hook you up. But if you have any paracord needs, see Not Bad Creations on Facebook. But back to the FarleyCon. Now, the last one, they seem to be growing and getting a little bigger every year. So let's talk about, it started out with just that one little building that we use for wrestling. And now it's grown much larger. So tell us a little bit about this past year and some of the people you had on and some of your guests versus, like you said, you only had the 10 guests before.
Well, no, we didn't have 10 guests the first year. I mean, vendors.
Vendors, yeah. So you had more vendors than guests. So it was a wrestling show.
It was a wrestling show. So going back to the history of it, the first year, like I said, we had 10 vendors selling toys, comics, those type of things, some crafts, shirts, and things of that nature. And then we had a UEW Hall of Fame ceremony followed by wrestling. It was all dedicated to Farley. It was actually my last night wrestling. There was no better way for me to go out.
Right.
I left team with my brother Brad, and then we worked Leroy and Kevin, which were
well, thank God Brad finished his training in time in that 30 years he was training to be able to have that match with you because buddy, Brad.
But yeah, that was, and then we had the Farley Cup Battle Royal that I was in for a brief 10 seconds in that night because.
So your record time,
they got
awesome.
They got for me Battle Royal, so I got them quickly throw me out. But you know that was a perfect way to go out.
Yeah.
You know, and then, but we, like I said, we had 10 vendors that year. The wrestling was definitely the main highlight of
Looking for a way to go out, like, you know, that's the hardest thing. I think that's one of the reasons it's so hard to retire as a wrestler sometimes. Like you said, you have the perfect way to go out. I still think I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
Like, a part of me's let go and is done, but there's a part that feels like something's unfinished.
I still have that too.
Yeah.
I
So it doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't.
Awesome.
You always have that you want. There's one more match. You got one more run.
One more. Yeah.
One more. Yeah. It's always one more.
I can't be like that. I've talked too much shit about other people that are like that though, so I can't really. That'd make me, oh God, a hypocrite.
It happens.
It happens.
There's always that one more.
I'm that curmudgeon in the locker room now that I used to talk show about.
Yeah.
So I'm
me.
well just
Yeah. It's just one of those things, and you know that was my perfect way to go out, and even then I still had the desire from time to time, thinking I can go back one more run, one more match, one more. Then every time it hits me, you know, I left teaming with my brother, working two guys that are my brothers, in memory of a match that was in the memory of my brother. And it was there's nothing I can do to top that. And even when I stopped managing, my last match I managed was the Kenny Arden Memorial tournament that they did at UW, and it was I got to manage Drew and Menace working Bubba and Luke in the finals for it. And it was like, you know, Kenny was such a big part too. And there's nothing else that I could do that could top any of those memories.
No, I can't imagine there would. That literally sounds perfect. And my last one wasn't bad. I still have a couple that are possibly still going to happen. But if my last one I had, it would have been a good one. I mean, I got to team up with Rawhead Rex again and his comeback and watch him. And every time I do that, it's like being a little kid again, kind of watching him, because he was one of the first guys I looked up to in independent wrestling before I ever, you know, knew what. Well, at the time, those were actually called outlaw shows. It wasn't independent. Now everything's independent, but at that time it was outlaw shows. Yeah, still outlaw. I'd never seen an outlaw show, and I think the first one was like Kim versus Woody and Richie Dye and Keith Hart, and you know, so I was like, oh, okay, there's this level that people can see, and that's hard to let go to, isn't it? That time.
Yes, that time's gone, but it's one that I really miss. It's changed so much that I can't even watch wrestling now. I have nothing to do with it.
You know, I definitely quit during the pandemic, and the reason I stopped is just because it stopped resonating with me. Like I lost. I felt like there wasn't much of an emotional connection. It was more like a Marvel movie without that emotional part that kind of tied you to it. It was just the action with no. But bits and pieces. There's still, I don't, you know, I'm not, you know, setting my watch or anything by anything. But I'll definitely check out the AEW because, for one reason, they just ran like a 2-year storyline and finished it. So I was super stoked about that. That kept me interested and emotionally involved in this thing that they teased just enough to make you want to watch again, but not so much that you were just over it.
Yeah. I'll try getting into AEW. To me, it's 1990s WCW.
I can see where that. Yeah.
It's just there's my main complaint with them is there are too many people employed by the company.
Right.
That you cannot give everybody enough time to actually get yourself over,
right,
to get developed.
Which was a problem WWE had, which led to 3-hour programming and 45 shows a week, where you're just kind of overkill. And I mean, once before, people like Andre the Giant were so popular because they were an attraction. They would work territories. They go to this territory for a while. You may not see Andre the Giant for another year. So when you see him, he's nice and fresh. But these guys, you've seen these two guys wrestle 75 times. How are you going to make it fresh?
Yeah. No, I will. I'll say I don't watch it. I have kept up with some of the stuff, though. The Lesnar, Heyman, Reigns thing. I like the way they kind of have this spin on that.
Right, yeah.
But
Overall, I agree, though. It's just not. I don't know if it's me or them, but it's lost something. The only time I truly, truly enjoy watching it anymore is with a little kid. And I've mentioned a lot because it takes me back to just, you hear them talk about what they're seeing, and there's no politics or put over or, smarky shit. You get to just go back to being a fucking kid and being like, I'm pissed at that dude because he cheated. As simple as that. Like, keep it simple. Like, we as adults seem to overcomplicate everything, so there's nothing like going with a child or taking a child to an event and seeing the wonder in their eyes, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why I fell in love with it in the first place, and that's why I did as long as I did, because it's, when it comes down to it, we talk about the crowd, we talk about this, that, and the other, but what we're doing is we're playing to our inner child, right? I mean, at least at some level, that's what we're doing.
We're playing as live action figures.
Yeah.
Which I think that's really one of the reasons why it translated so well for me, from going from wrestling into finding something, the cons, conventions.
Yeah. And this year, speaking of wrestling, tying it in, you had WWF legend and Hall of Famer Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes, we did. And he's not the first wrestler we've had.
Right.
We started out after we moved out of the wrestling building that first year, we went to the Eastern Community Center, which was a little bigger.
Right.
We were fitting a lot more vendors in, but we were still restricted on space. We had them down to like the single tabletops. But we did have Bobby Eaton in that year. And man, he was a great guy. Oh, he was a super nice guy.
He's one of those you've never heard a bad story about.
No, ever. As the promoter, I felt bad because we were still new, still trying to get our feet wet, trying to figure out what we were doing. Crowd was there, but it was mostly there for comic books, so not a whole lot of action going on in his area. But he was a super nice guy, and I was so glad. Him and Dad wrestled together in the '70s with Nick Goulas, and real good friends. I was so glad to be able to bring him.
When I grew up watching Goulas and Thornton and those guys, those promotions.
Yeah, I was so glad to be able to bring him in, let Dad and him reconnect. Especially with what happened this year. It's been a little bit of time together. But we've had Marty Jannetty as well, which is its own adventure.
I've met him a couple of times.
But this year, Sarge. Now this year we went from the community center to the Camp Jordan Arena. So we went from maybe 7,000 square foot to 27,000 square foot. We went from
each step of the way. You get a little bit nervous because I feel like with my podcast, I started with just a Chromebook and just chit chatting over some horrible audio. Had no clue what I was doing. That's how you start out. You've come a long way, but each step, did you feel more pressure along the way to like, okay, now I've reached this level. Not only do I have to stay at this level, but now I need to bring it to this next one.
Each day after that, and it's not. It's 365 days a year.
Right.
When I finish, for example, this coming year on August 13th, when we're done at the end of the day, I will start working for 2023.
Yeah.
I say that, but I've already started contacting guests for 2023.
Of course,
trying to book people and coming up with ideas, raise one for that. So it's getting to where I'm trying to stay at least a year ahead of where I'm trying to plan this out. But like Sarge it was scary. Look at Sarge. Obviously the bigger your name, the bigger your cost, the bigger your building, the bigger your cost. You had that fear. Can I fill it? Can I get the guests in? Can I get the vendors to fill the spots?
Right.
And then all the way up until the day of the show is that are the people coming? It's just like wrestling.
Yeah, right.
Am I going to put butts in the seats?
Yeah.
Are people going to come in the door? The vendor's going to make their money back. Are they going to make a little profit? Are the guests going to be good, taken care of? And and that's one thing I won't. Like I won't book a guest unless I have this, the guarantee in my pocket before I book them. I don't rely on the door for that or vendor fees. I have that.
So it's exactly the opposite of wrestling.
Yes, that is. That's almost.
You see what happens in wrestling is income tax check hits and you buy a $200 ring, low boy with missing boards and maybe an apron if you're lucky and a karaoke machine and then want to book all these people and then not promote it and then we've all lived that before.
Yeah.
But you're doing it the right way. And I had no doubt. And I tease you and I'll joke and stuff about work and stuff or stuff, but I know this is 100% legit and don't want to skew anybody's mind about doing anything but ribbing you.
No, I know.
So, and I know you know, but I want them to make sure too. This is
no, and that's one of the things. That's one of the lessons I learned in wrestling is that you have your guarantee for whatever you're guaranteeing somebody, you have that up front.
You should have the money for the complete show before you decide to put the show on, instead of hoping you'll put it together or your GoFundMe will come together.
Yeah, and everything goes back into the next show too. So I mean, we're constantly striving to get better and bigger, and I've got a number in my head that once I hit that number, we'll go to 2 days.
Yeah.
And got real close this year.
Right.
Real close, and actually probably really and honestly hit it, but not hit it enough to me where I was comfortable taking the next step. But yeah, Sergeant Slaughter was amazing. The stories, sitting having dinner with that man on that Friday night we went out. It was my wife and my son Anakin, and we started off with Rob Lamb and his wife Sean. Rob was an animator on the old He-Man and Masters Universe cartoons, and Sean wrote Brave Star.
One of my favorite cartoons ever, He-Man.
Oh, wow.
They, honestly, they just became more wrestlers for my deal at the time, because they didn't really have wrestling figures like that.
We didn't have the OG
until
later on.
Right,
He-Man was a perfect Hulk Hogan, and they fit with the rim coat. The AWA rim coat figures, they fit perfect with those. But but He-Man was one of my favorite cartoons. And Rob was amazing. He'll take the pops, and he doesn't do them at the show. He brings them to the show they're already done. But he will use the cells, the plastic on the pops, as like animation cells, and he'll draw the characters on there. I went through and did a walkthrough, and on Facebook Live at PartyCon, walked by and showed them. And by the time I got back around to him, they were gone. Right. He was sold out. People were buying them left and right. He is a great guy. And we haven't really announced it on Facebook yet, but Rob is coming back this year. We do have him coming back, him and Sean both. But Friday night, we were out to dinner with them, and we'd invited Sarge and his agent, Tony, to come eat dinner with us. And they weren't going to make it in town in time, they thought. Right. Until we're sitting at the restaurant, Jonathan's in East Ridge, and Tony walks in, and Jennifer notices him, and I went and talked to him, and they said they'd dinner with us. It was awesome. It was like being, here on one side I've got the guy who drew He-Man, and then over here I've got the Sergeant Slaughter, the WWE champion, the G.I. Joe drill
about
sergeant.
Your inner child, my God.
It was.
He-Man, it's like He-Man and G.I. fucking Joe.
Yeah,
I mean, for us, people don't understand. He wasn't just pro wrestler. He transcended, just kind of like Hulk did in a lot of other media areas, and became even bigger because now he's a G.I. Joe, which, like He-Man was one of those shows from back in the day.
And listening to the personal stories, that was something I always treasured. I won't get into those, but just the stuff that I'll say like his stories about being trained.
Did he get trained by Billy?
Billy
Robinson? Sorry.
No, I think it was Vern.
Vern
Gagne. Yeah, I think it was Vern Gagne who said up there.
I know Vern mostly did it, but Billy came in towards the end.
He might have been up there with him.
Right.
There was somebody had an altercation with him, but I don't remember the exact person.
I remember hearing about that as well.
But he was just great. Listen to stories, and he was beautiful. Bobby Remus before he was Sergeant Slaughter, and had the blonde hair and boas. It really reminded me of my Rocky Star gimmick.
Yeah.
And of course, I stole it. I adapted to get
We
it.
procure bits and pieces of people from our childhood to create who we feel like we want to.
I ripped off Jesse
Ventura,
Ventura, who ripped it off from Superstar Billy Graham, and which everybody stole from him. So, it was basically, it was kind of fun to hear those stories.
Rick wasn't the first Nature Boy, type thing.
Best one, though. The real one. We'll say that. But yeah, he was great. And then later that night, we went and picked up Jim Shooter from the airport, the Marvel editor-in-chief in the 80s, in the late 70s, 80s, who had a lot to do with the G.I. Joe comics, named the Autobots and Decepticons and Transformers, and helped with the license that. The black-suited Spider-Man in Secret Wars 8 started when he was 13 years old in the 60s, writing comics for DC.
Wow.
Just because their comics weren't good enough. They weren't as good as Marvel, so he spent like a year studying them and then searching.
Trying to insert some of the things he learned.
Yeah. and they, hearing the stories.
That's a different kind of genius, because it's one thing just, you think of an artist or a writer, they write, they draw, but that's a different level of creative to actually be able to take, and people think it's copying, but it's not really, because you have to now. See, remember when you was in school and you got to write stuff out, but it's got to be in your own words? Remember how hard that was?
Oh, I hated it.
So this is what he's doing, is he's taking a concept, now he's got to make it in his own words. So to me, that almost takes more creative power than just...
And at 13 years old.
At 13 years old, to be able to do that. Like, I was just thinking about G.I. Joes and He-Mans and stuff at 13.
And a lot of it has to do with him. We got the He-Man, or not He-Man, but the G.I. Joes, Transformers, all that stuff coming through Marvel Comics.
Right.
Hasbro walked into his office and said, "Here's this robot," and it turns into a car, and here it turns back into a robot. And he said, "Okay, why?" And like, "That's what we're here for you to figure out." He went and found the right guy and said, "Here, this is what you've got. Here's your start. Figure it out." Same with the G.I. Joe. They bought. There's a rumored story that the head of Marvel and the head of Hasbro were they were taking a piss together.
Yeah.
And Hasbro said, "We're worried about G.I. Joe," and the head of Marvel said, "Let us take a shot at it. Let us give you the story." They took a Jim Shooter. He took it to Larry Hama, and Larry was supposed to be working on a Shield.
Right.
Nick Fury, son of the Nick Fury comic, and so he took that and applied it to G.I. Joe and made it into the real American hero. Just
that is crazy.
But the Secret Wars, Black Suit Spider-Man. This guy, he wrote it, and it was based off of the toy line. They wanted to do a Hasbro or a Marvel toy line.
Right.
And they said that they looked at children and polled children, and children responded to the word secret and responded to the word wars. So they just put it together, Secret Wars.
Hey, smart.
And then Shooter came up with it and said, "This is the storyline," and had some amazing artists.
So it's almost like Friday 13th. Like Friday 13th was literally just a concept of something to do with Friday 13th. There was no story they had.
Yeah.
And then they had to come up with that really quick afterwards. So that's...
You find them
on the fly. You find that person, and it's crazy how many variables have to come together for us to get the things we got. Like, you don't think about that. How many things have to fall into place, and all the little intricate moving pieces that if any one of them had messed up, we would have never had G.I. Joe.
Right. And even look at like Indiana Jones, for example. That's the MacGuffin. What he's after is the first thing they come up with. They look, okay, we're going to try to find the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, so we find this, let's write the story around how they find it.
Right.
And so, the same thing with those. They got their concept to come up with. They had Secret Wars. Okay, how do we get into a Secret War?
Right, yeah.
And, the actual Black Suit Spider-Man came from a child. Marvel, he'd send a concept into Marvel, and Jim Shooter bought it from him for a couple $100.
Right.
And then put it into Secret Wars. And had incredible artists on it, might say.
Even if you didn't do anything else, can you imagine being that little kid and that's like, you just be able to go to school and be like, well, by the way, even you wouldn't have to pay me, just let me brag about it at that age,
We had a guy at the convention during Jim's panel that brought up that he had sent in a concept for a character, and that his story is that Marvel took it and developed it as a different character.
Right.
And Jim said he was going to, he said if they did that, it wasn't right. He checked it out. He said,
right.
And Jim Shooter's panel, man, went totally different than what I've ever seen in the past. In the past, everybody's asking about how did you get G.I. Joe? How did you get Transformers?
Right.
How did you get Secret Wars? This is what it's known for. A lot of this was all about what lessons did you learn from your mentors? How did you learn about the business of running Marvel? How did this work? And it was basically a business seminar by Jim Shooter, the guy who ran Marvel. And man, it was. I got it on record at tape, and I got it on disc at home.
Google it if you're not sure what that means, okay?
Yeah, we're showing our age here.
People right now are going, where do I download it again?
Yeah.
At the CD.com?
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It's on
there
YouTube.
You go. Now you're speaking their language.
It's on YouTube. We got it on there. It's not the greatest quality, but we're working on that. We weren't really prepared to record the panels this year, so we have invested in a GoPro system and setting up to where we can enhance our panels. This is our first year.
It's really the fun part of it, right? Yeah. Is like talk about the improvement is then you get to because you already have these people that enjoy it and fans and things, and then you get to upgrade this or that or the other, and it's so exciting because they're going to enjoy it because you know what they like, and you're going to give them more what they like, even better. I know you said you had some people returning. Are there any names set in stone for next year that you can announce?
Oh yeah, we've got former WCW World Heavyweight Champion Lex Luger.
Wow, nice.
WWE Hall of Famer and WCW World Champion, multiple times WWE Tag Team Champion Ron Simmons.
Wait, damn.
Yeah. And I've also discovered that if you have the profanity filter on your page on Facebook and somebody comments the word damn, that Facebook will not allow that post to be made.
I know they have been tweaking that comment section for a while. I definitely noticed that. That's crazy. That's going to cause some problems, isn't it?
Yeah, I had to turn the profanity filter off because I kept noticing that people were commenting damn on his announcement. And it was saying that it was hidden. And I thought, okay, it's one of the other admins clicking something, is what's going on.
Is that relevant, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, we got Ron Simmons. We also are venturing out a little into the anime world this year.
Okay.
And, we're bringing in the voice actor from My Hero Academia. Kyle Phillips will be there.
Which, speaking of pro wrestling, I feel like we was talking the other day, Chip and I, about how wrestling went from in our days, which was basically an exhibition catch match. Look up Catches Can Wrestling, Scientific Wrestling, Snake Pit, things like that. If you don't know about the history of pro wrestling and where it comes from, but it's very similar, right?
Yeah.
Type of.
Yeah, and now it's more of a circus acrobat show.
And now it's more geared towards because everybody likes Marvel and anime, so.
Yeah, and
it's portrayed.
What Mortal Kombat move can we do now, and things of that nature. Yeah, and but yeah, Kyle Phillips, he does Kaminari, the voice of Kaminari on My Hero Academia. I always have a hard time saying that, but
I have a hard time saying.
And have you ever seen that show?
I have not.
It's basically, it reminds me of the X-Men in reverse, where in the show they call it their abilities are quirks, and what you have here is most everybody has a quirk except for a few people that are just normal people. And the story is basically a normal child who wants to go to the superhero high school, but he doesn't have the quirk, and it's about him getting in and how he becomes the greatest superhero. So it's basically the X-Men in reverse, where you have in the X-Men you have normal people that are pushing out the mutants. They don't want the mutants around. They're biased against them, and they have to go to their special school. Where this one, you have the normal people that are looked down on, and they want to go to the special school
so they can be. Yeah, I love that, and a lot of people don't realize if they've not paid attention to it that there are such great stories told in comic books, and now translating into comic movies. Like they're really good about the way pro wrestling used to be, about getting you involved on an emotional level. So you care about the characters that they're sending you instead of them just being. It's not like people would think. There's a lot of action, and if you love action, you should definitely catch one. But if you like drama or comedy, there's a place for that in comics too. Is there anything that would surprise you coming out of comic books? Because the first time I found out what what do they call the novels, the comic book novels, the graphic novels. Graphic novels. More that way with the Walking Dead and everything being made of that. Is there any? Because that surprised me that there was a horror comics and that it wasn't just superheroes. Is there any line of comics that may have came out that may have surprised you, or that you were particularly interested in, or
the Walking
all
Dead.
of them?
Yeah, the Walking Dead. I love Walking Dead comics, and now they're released only in color.
Oh.
Yeah, which.
Bad Boys.
Bad Boys.
The Boys.
The Boys.
The Boys. Yeah, that's
when it shocked us too.
Yeah, because I stayed away from the comics because I wanted to watch the show.
Right.
And we got into the show and it was like, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening. But then I went back and I looked at the comics and thought, okay, they toned it down for the show.
Right.
But yeah, The Walking Dead, it was originally a black and white comic.
Uh-huh.
And the reason, from what I read from Robert Kirkman, the reason why they did it in black and white is simply because of budget. And they don't was on the last past issue 6.
Right.
So to get it published and get that here, they have to cost me. Now they're going back to the third issue without it. And it was so nice. Yeah. I think we're packaged 25 or 60 like that.
Speaking of Walking Dead, here in our very own China, yeah, restaurant, that's pretty crazy.
That was great. And I loved it.
I haven't got to go yet, but Jennifer wants to shoot. Okay. Jen's way. That's the short shirt of the club or a coat. There's no pineapple on my dog. The next one's coming up. We're talking about some of the guests and things like that. How far away do you think you are from having a big baby? Like you said, you kind of get it, you're still not comfortable with it. Do you have a new number now? Or is this one again? Or do you like, okay, so I have this one in there, I'm going to have to.
Yeah, I'm just running a bit on the contract. A lot of this time was more, I'm going to say, right, another one. As much as it is for didn't have a increase, a massive increase in the first year. A lot bigger gas off of vendors, rent, and bigger costs.
Well, you have to probably you have to go see like World of Wheels and stuff like that. I love World of Wheels, but for me, those are separate things. I'd rather come to something like Pro-Con to get that kind of thing. But I feel like it's more family, it's more intimate, it's more like, it's not, you're not doing it so you can make money, so it's like, okay, next one. You feel like,
We're not very corporate.
yeah.
The World of Wheels or something like that. And
So just personally, that would be a reason why I would rather go to something like that. So people are like, well, I can go to this and get science. Like, yeah, but trust me, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different feel, and it's just a lot better, if you ask me.
And a lot of it is, especially for guys our age, it's our childhood.
Yeah,
we go back in and,
it's
I had this with Anakin, my son, is that I was able to take him in there and show him, say, hey, this was the G.I. Joe battle platform that I got when I was, 10 years old, and this is what I love this toy, or this was the Terradrome, or this was the Ewok Village. I had it, 6 years old in 1983.
Yeah.
And of course, he went home with all those things too. So
of course,
he fell in love with.
He has to create his own nostalgia.
Yeah. And that actually, we started that bond getting really close through Farley, going to the conventions with him.
Right.
When he was 3, the first G.I. Joe movie came out, the Rise of Cobra.
Yeah.
And he was just completely, amazed and just struck with it.
Right.
And it re-triggered my love. I said, hey, I love G.I. Joe as a kid. And here's the toys. Let's look at these toys. And we got to go in on to toy hunts. So we would go to Walmart. We'd go to Targets, looking for specific ones. And something that, even though he's 15 years old now, he doesn't really want to go. He wants to play video games.
Right.
Me and Jennifer go.
Yeah.
We'll go. We'll probably leave here and go to Target tonight.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that I just love going to see, what's out, trying to find something cool. And
I still enjoy hitting the toy aisle, and it just seems to piss me off because the shit today seems so much cooler than when I was a little kid. Like, for example, when I was a little kid, I used to have to wear underwear on my head to be Spider-Man, and now you can get an actual fucking Spider-Man mask?
Yeah.
Like, what?
It pisses me off it's not our size.
Yeah.
There's a little thing at Target that had, of course, they put all their Disney stuff out.
I would drive with Power Wheels to work nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Radio, lights.
They got a Spider-Man jacket. It's for toddlers. And I would so wear that thing if it would fit.
Better battery than Tesla?
Yeah.
You got to.
Alyssa with her little girl Barbie superheroes.
One of the complaints I hear a
Yeah,
lot
my
about.
daughter sent an email to Mattel.
When
At
she
one
was
time.
9.
She was 9 years old, sent an email to Mattel, or Mattel or Hasbro one.
It was
And-
Mattel because it was Barbie.
Told them that she wanted superhero Barbies. That
Right.
there was nothing for little girls to play with that was superhero
So
related.
they could, right.
And then she got a response back saying that they didn't have the license for it, couldn't do it. And so now she's 20 years old, and she's not happy that all that stuff is available now.
Right, of
Yeah,
course.
10 years
yeah.
later.
Yeah, 10
Now
years
that-
later,
yeah.
and, you know, there's Black Widow Barbie dolls and Princess Leia Barbie dolls and stuff like that.
Well, and it is. It's because it's finally become more acceptable for them to be versions of themselves that they could be.
Yeah.
In women's wrestling, it's come up as
Yeah.
a beautiful thing now, and with superheroes, and there's just a lot more places for girls to have good role models to look up to instead of the old stereotypy things that are just don't really fit these times. It's great that they have things, but yeah, it pisses me off too, girl. I hear you.
I always raised Alyssa to Princess Leia was her idol. That was her favorite, and one of the reasons I pushed her so much towards that, and introduced her to Princess Leia and talked to her about it, was she wasn't the damsel in distress.
No.
She wound up saving Luke and Han's
Yeah,
ass more
she
than
was-
they did her.
Follow me type of
Yeah.
chick instead of
And
reminds
that's
me a
why-
lot of my gen.
Yeah, that's the way I wanted her to be. Is she didn't need a guy to save her. She could
Right.
save herself,
Save
or
herself.
save or she could be strong. And
Learn to love yourself and make yourself happy, and then be available to share that with somebody else. It shouldn't be dependent on that other person to
Right.
give it to you, because you can't really, right?
Right.
We're just projections of our own needs. That's Jen and I were talking about that the other night. That when we get with somebody, really, while we get with them, is we see things in themselves that please us about ourselves. Just like when we see something that pisses us off about somebody, it repels us. But when you see that somebody you love, all of a sudden you have like this different view of things. And that's what kind of started, that and grandkids has softened me as I've gotten older. But there's a big complaint in wrestling today, and a lot of arguments that today's wrestlers are softer. Not necessarily in ring or the pain you can take, but just overall, this generation is a softer generation. Do you think, and you don't know where I'm going with this yet, I'm going to throw a swerve at you.
Okay.
Do you think some of the wrestlers today could have lasted some of those weekends at the Rockin' Country and Governors with us back in the day?
No, they couldn't. Not
And we're not going to go into details, but
now. That being said,
that's a whole nother show.
those guys today are I think better off than what we were back then.
Absolutely.
We there was so much stuff that we
We're
were.
so
I don't know
right.
how.
Shouldn't have been. Or,
I don't know how we're so alive.
I really don't.
We should have been killing those clubs, or
At least one of the times, right?
yeah, and I'm sure some of us have been. I mean, we
Yeah.
But those guys.
If we had
now,
9 lives, we'd burn 8.5.
yeah, those guys now today. I mean,
But they don't have to be now. Like back then, it was still kayfabe then. If you were a heel and you got in a fight at a bar, you better whoop that dude's ass, or you're done. Nobody wants to. I mean, look what happened to Dr. Death. Even
well, look at Seth Rollins a few weeks ago. There was a fan that attacked him, and Seth got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, that in our day, we got back to the back, we got our ass kicked again.
yeah, absolutely.
Now they probably
Not that that's right or wrong or the way it should be. We're just saying how it was and how it is, right?
Well, what happened? We come up to a period of time where a lot of the guys that we worked with were older, the older generation before us.
Mhm.
They came through before the national expansion,
Right.
so where everything was real. It was the guy that got his leg broke in training, got his ankles broken in training, just to prove that it was real.
Right.
There.
Right.
And those are the guys that stick through it, and then they
My
try
first training session with Woody and Richie.
No.
Yeah, it was just getting the shit kicked out of me in cardio until I threw up in the garbage can a whole bunch.
Mine was bumping on the ground at Camp Jordan.
Yeah,
Just
falling
me.
trees and stuff on on the concrete, and
You bought back
I
some
thought they were
tape.
joking when they asked when they said we was gonna start on the concrete. I thought, not really, are like this isn't like they're ribbing me now just to see if You know, I was like, all right, let's go, and then you do it. But there's a reason behind it then, and part of it is it conditions you because you need to be conditioned. You can't be thinking about fuck that hurt because regardless of people's opinions of how it feels to take a bump, it fucking hurts to take a bump in the ring. Even the best of rings.
That's why I quit doing it.
Yes, you're taking an impact from, you know, okay, we're 3 feet tall, but
It doesn't.
but we're still taking.
Show up to work on Monday morning.
Yeah.
To teach a class.
So you condition yourself. You take those bumps on the concrete and you get in the ring, and all of a sudden, it's nothing.
That's why I had a partner that would bump.
Yeah.
And I stole him from Dad. You know, I let him. You know, when Dad went to the floor and I took Dad's place in the
Speaking of that, shout out to Hampton.
Yeah, Danny, good. Glad you could bump for me. I got you heat, gave you some personality, and let you bump.
You're welcome.
Got you over, kid. But yeah, Danny was a great partner, great man. And you know, Drew, I've teamed with Drew for a while, and
I always have a special place in my heart for him because we'll call him Bopper just for this part of the conversation because Bopper is the first person to grab me like Drew Gang did in the future and say, hey, I'll do a program with you, I'll put you over.
Yeah.
And me at that point, that young in my career, and you know, I was kind of looking at him. He was like this next level dude to me. Somebody I seen little, somebody I respected, and here he is coming to me and telling me this. And my first thought is, you know, how many headshots have you taken? But from that point on, that's if I had to say when I started feeling like a pro wrestler, it was during that program I had with him, and his whole purpose was an old school heel. Is he just made me fucking shine, and I was a turd. That is him and his brother, Rawhead Rex, are both reasons I turned heel at one point and never went back because the art of it. I felt like it was being lost in it, and it still is. Like I said, that was his whole purpose and point in doing that program was to shine this little turd up, and it did. It gave me the rub that I needed. Regardless of my skill, for people to go, okay, he beat that dude, then, you know.
You got one of the biggest pops at one time. It was a match we had. It was a quick 10-second match.
I think I remember which one.
Chuck Colt was the champ at UW. He was hurt, and me and him were calling the shots, and we wanted the belt on the babyface. And so he dropped it to me. We were in an angle. And I turned around the next week and was bragging, and I think we still had you doing tag at the time. And
kind of out of the blue.
Yeah, out of the blue, you shot in, set for the match. I think we locked up. You schoolboard me real quick, 1, 2, 3, and the place exploded.
It's crazy.
I never got my rematch, by the way.
Yeah, no, you didn't. Well, you know, after we turn the cameras
on,
we can't do it without getting paid for it. So we'll talk about that.
We'll just call that one the that was the Rocky Apollo moment that he never got his rematch.
I'll tell you who this is. I'll tell the story about in a minute. You might know, but there's a guy. You'll hear this. So when I first met him at TWE, it was so funny. I went back and he was some kind of champ. And I was just joking because I just met him, and that's how I break the ice as I joke. And so I said, hey, you know, it's me and you for that title night. He's like, oh, okay, cool. I like wrestling. Blah blah. I was like, yeah. I was like, that's gonna be great. It's like, you heard it's a shoot too, right? Shoot means a legit match. We're going to go out there and we're going to fight. There is no predetermined stuff like that. He goes, oh, you can just have the belt, man. I don't.
Oh, yeah. While the pistol's
like,
running down his
yeah, while I was like that, he said, you just go ahead and take the belt. I was like, I'm just kidding, man. For that, it's like, you know, if we are wrestling, I'm putting you over and don't worry about it. Relax. That was my first experience of intimidating somebody. And like, I felt like such a horrible person afterwards because, you know, most guys you come up to like that and they're like, all right, motherfucker. And, you know, you get that reaction. That's what you're doing. You're trying to rib them into overreacting a little bit and then relax and stuff. But it backfired on me. So here I am now. I feel like a bully. I'm like, you know, bullies are my worst pet peeve. Like, way to go, Jerry. Way to make a difference in the locker room on your first fucking day. And I also that's one of the funniest memories I actually have from wrestling. And one of the best, and you know, this refers back to us doing it for the kids, is I may choke up during this one, so forgive me if I do. They had a little kid that beat cancer, and part of this celebration they had for him that night was he got to go backstage and take his picture with whoever they wrestled with. he picked me, and I thought, here's this little kid who went through all this, and it really humbles you and makes you see how powerful a position you hold, because you don't think of it like that. You think, I'm going out and having fun, I'm living my dreams, blah, 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 and then you see how it affects like somebody else, and you're like, oh, okay, so I need to. Do you have any experiences like that kind of touched you in wrestling? Whether it don't have to be the same type of thing, but what do you think your favorite, most moving moment in wrestling was?
There was a guy that
Not the movement, the tag team. Sorry, guys, love you.
I didn't have anything like that. I was an asshole, and I stayed an asshole. I was I was the heel completely. There was a guy that when Dad used to run Salvation Army in Chattanooga years ago. The guy would always show up and have his autograph book. And he's something from the guy. He was not all there.
Right.
And so Dad would have to sign his autograph book every time he saw him. He started coming to UW, and he'd come up to me with the autograph book, and I took his pen, chunked it across the building.
Yeah.
And so he was whining about it. So go get it, and I'll sign it. He'd bring it back to me. We played fetch about 15 minutes of me throwing his pen, and he would go get it and bring it back. And like I said, I was an asshole. And
because back in the day, we were heels 24 hours a day. I was the same way, so it's.
And so I mean, but it was just constant, and he would just go get it and bring it back. And finally, I just took his book and chunked it in the trash can and let him stand there with it. But I would say I feel bad about it, but not really.
Right.
But so one of the heel things is that if somebody comes up and hands you something, you don't sign. You rip up their autograph. You throw their pen away.
Old school. Things are probably different today.
So my first night in the business, I was managing my dad and Danny from Jasper, Tennessee. And I was on my way to the concession stand, a restroom, or something. Anyway, we had to go out in front of people. And this kid comes up to me and he's like, "Will you can I get your autograph?" Now, that's I said first night.
Right.
Well, it's actually not the first night. First night up here. So I think, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna break his pencil. He has this nice, thick, good-looking pen. I can't do it. So okay, I'm gonna rip his autograph.
Right.
Turned around, hands me his shirt, and I was still wearing his shirt. I said, I can't rip this kid's shirt off of him. I can't throw his pen. I can't break. I didn't think of throwing it. I probably would have thrown it. So I signed it. For the next 30 minutes, I'm outside signing autographs.
Right.
And finally, my dad sticks his head out there. He asked me, he said, "What in the hell are you doing, boy?" And so I had to stop.
Right.
No, but no, I never had to. I was.
But these people that, well, what's so
I
funny is
I was nobody's
because
favorite rapper.
at this point in time at TWE, I was at my meanest. I was in Sons of Sin, and that Jerry Anderson, right? I lived it hardcore 24/7. I was that character. So for him to pick me, I think that's what threw me, because I made kids cry. I had, we were so heelish at that time, and Rocky saw this. There would be other big heel teams that would come in, and we would face them out instantly. As soon as they figured out they were wrestling us, they were automatically their face. It didn't matter how much they were hated before then. So it was definitely a weird moment for him to say Jerry Anderson, because I'm like, really? Like, that's, especially at that age, because, you get to be a teenager, you're a little more of a heel fan.
Right.
But this is a little kid, so it'll forever touch me in that moment, because I thought,
that's cool. I haven't had that, but that is, I'll take that Mick. Mick, when we were wrestling at the deli over in Cloud Springs Deli, Mick's great. I love Mick. And
shout out to Mick. Hey, buddy.
He wasn't.
He's always the one that's touched Rocky's heart the most.
Yeah,
even though he was a big mean heel.
Yeah,
that
I
was always
the
the
one. There, and so I was on the floor, and I'm right there in front of Mick, and I can mess with him. And he wants to fight me and everything.
Yeah.
But then he'll send me messages on Facebook telling me he misses me and come back, and I'm like, that means something. Those are the fans that remind you, okay, this is really why I'm doing it. Yeah.
I may have all these things in my head while I think I am, but if somebody truly asks me, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is a reflection again of me and who I was.
Now, one of the greatest compliments I've got was from Chip Hazard's mom.
Mm-hmm.
She made a post one night when they were going down there, and I quit down there at this time, Adam Couch had taken over as the heel manager, and he had just quit. And she had posted that she made a post that it was there was no heels to mess with. There was nobody to get heat with, and that they needed me or they needed Adam, and that meant a lot. That that she took the time and thought enough to say, hey, you guys made this better.
Yeah, because they're outside, even though her son's a wrestler, they're outside of the realm of wrestling fans, and to hear something like that, there's a different kind of knowledge that comes with it, right? And a different kind of.
She knows what's going on. She's on the inside. She knows what this is. Yeah.
This Jennifer is actually kind of our co-host tonight, and she's the director, so I didn't really tell her how to stop the program, so we're not stopping yet, but I wanted to go ahead and tell you right quick before we wrap it up. And there'll be an in broadcast. You get the in broadcast, and then hit it again when it comes up, so you do it twice. See, just in case you had referee experience, I wanted to make sure we didn't have to go to 3.
Yeah.
But before we do wrap it up, is there anything else you want to say?
I'll give a referee test later.
We may talk about that. That'll be on a Patreon episode. We'll have some of those stories. I've actually started thinking about doing a clip show where I just do about everybody's favorite road story, like a bunch of the guys from back in the day. Speaking of Adam Couch,
that's another one he's gone.
There's so many. RIP to so many people we mentioned tonight are no longer with us. So before going to wrapping it up, if you love somebody out there, tell them you love them. If you got to beef with somebody, go ahead and end that shit. Life is really short. Tell your friends you love them for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love his ass.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why, because I'm an asshole too. Maybe that's why. Maybe I was
you
about to say
beat
maybe our
each other in
assholes
the head.
connect, but I'm not really good at putting words together like that. That's why I did. I wish we could go back. I wish you and I had more matches and more opportunity to work stories.
Yeah, we had a lot of tag matches.
We did.
Me and Danny, you and Hampton, we worked months and months of times, but it was never nothing storyline. It was just basically, hey, this is our top heel teams. Let's put them in there and let them work.
Which was okay, I'm a Beltmore. Of course, when you first start out, you'll be changing stuff. But that that wears thin and wears off really fucking quick.
Unless you've been Thrasher.
Like you've been Thrasher.
He sleeps with them.
Yeah. After you've had it once, you got carried with you. You got to be, you start to just not that big deal. To me, there was nothing more special than me a part of the storyline. I wanted a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's how I connected with people. It wasn't through my fantastic wrestling. It had to be something. So that's how I connected with people. And it's sad that art is kind of slipping away today too. So if you're out there, try to tell a little bit of the story. Have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's all a story is. It doesn't have to be really complicated. Keep it simple.
You mind if I give a training signal?
Yes, go ahead.
Bubba, Franchi Riviera,
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be doing some training down in Spurlock for
Okay.
Patterson's thing. And if you want to learn, psychology and things of that nature, not only wrestling, but why you're doing this movie.
Right.
Why is this happening? He's going to be doing the training down for Luke Patterson at Spurlock.
Okay.
And Bubba,
Check that out.
Bubba to me, but check him out on Facebook.
He'll always be Bubba.
Yeah, check out Franchi Riviera.
Twiggy will be Twiggy.
Yeah, I can't call him Josh.
No.
He's just Twiggy.
He's just Twiggy.
He's always going to be Twiggy.
Just stop.
Yeah, he's
Just Rockwell.
The
Just
backyard
stop. Stop.
The backyard
Backyard
boys.
boys.
Yeah.
Stop.
Lynch Mom.
Lynch
Of
Mom.
course, they embrace that.
Another great story. Well, man, we're definitely going to have to bring you back on because I feel like we have a ton more stories to tell. I wish we had more time tonight. Speaking of tonight, there's a meeting going down. I want everybody to know that we may have some announcements coming as soon as tomorrow. This episode, of course, we're going live right now, so you're watching it. It'll be on YouTube. I'll have it probably on my website within the next 24 to 48 hours. If they have questions about Pops or BarleyCon or want tickets or anything, where they would look for you on Facebook?
BarleyCon on Facebook. That's going to be the best place. You can also email me at barleycon@outlook.com. You can visit our website at www.barleycon.com as well. Keep up with our announcements. We do have Twitter too. It's Barley_con on Twitter.
And how about we get you back a little closer too, and we'll talk some more of that, and maybe tell some more stories that won't get my YouTube page canceled.
Okay.
Or if they do, that's worth it too, man. thanks to everybody for watching tonight. That's came back and watched. I appreciate everybody that watched Chips. I appreciate everybody that's watching this one. I hope you watch the next one. I thank you, Rocky, for being here. I say this at the end of every episode, and I truly mean it from the heart. Time is the most precious gift you can give because it's something you can't get back. And you gave me a piece of your time, and I will always cherish that. So the same thing for people that watch. Appreciate you. And you can end it. Anything else, buddy?
Hey, man, love you. Thank you for
Man,
having me.
love you, brother. Thanks.